Hello all out there on YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. So I apologize for not having a typical review for you this week. It's been a very busy week, a lot of dogs to deal with. So I decided to do another random horror recommendation. A little while ago, like a month or two ago, I did this video where I decided to just talk about and recommend some horror movies that I had seen for the past few months. And people seemed to like that one, and I asked if anybody wanted me to do this again, and some people said they wanted me to do this again, so I'm doing it again. So this is just going to be a video where I talk about some of the horror movies that I watched the past few months. I decided to do this, I would like to make this a regular series, but I decided I would do this every other month because that would give me some time to watch some more movies and hopefully find some decent ones to recommend. I don't want to just recommend movies that everyone has seen. I wanted to recommend just, like I said, random movies that I came across that I thought were pretty good. We as horror movie fans are always looking for recommendations, and I know a lot of YouTube channels do videos where they recommend movies, so hey, I want to play too, so here we go. I have 4 movies in this video, and I think that's a good number to have, 4 movies. That gives you not too much, not too little. I think 4 is a good amount of movies to recommend. So with that, let's get started. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is Jugface. This is a horror movie that came out in 2013, and I've come across it here and there. I've heard certain people talk about it when I go online looking for horror movies to check out that are a little lesser known. This one has come up quite a bit. I was curious about it for a while, but I never checked it out, but I finally decided to give in and give it a watch, and it is a pretty good movie. I won't say it's a perfect movie. It does have some issues, but it's definitely a movie that's worth watching at least once. This is a cult-esque movie and a bit of a cosmic horror movie. You know, it deals with unknown entities and strange beings beyond our understanding. The being that we're dealing with in this movie is very vague. We never really see it, but let's get into the plot here. It's a very interesting movie. We follow this cult that's in the middle of fucking nowhere, and this cult worships a pit. Now, this is not like a pit in The Pit, which is a fun, campy, killer kid movie about a kid who has a pit full of monsters. I'll talk about that some more sometime. I actually love that movie. But this particular pit, it's just a pit. It's a pit with like muddy water on the bottom of it. And basically this pit is able to heal people. Like if you have an illness or a severe injury, if you're put into the waters in this pit, it will heal you. And there's some kind of entity that controls the pit, and we never really find out what it is, and I like that. I like that it's left more vague. But there are certain things that I wish the movie did, which we'll get into in a minute. But anyway, so you have these people that worship this pit that heals people, but the pit also demands a sacrifice. Basically what happens is someone is chosen to make jug faces, make these jugs with faces on it, and the person essentially goes into a trance and makes the jug while he's in a trance, and the jug turns into the face of one of the members of this cult. And whosever face is made onto the jug, they have to be sacrificed to the pit. Interesting concept. I mean, a lot of movies about cults deal with human sacrifice, and needless to say, this is one of them. But naturally, we have someone who does not want to be sacrificed to the pit. You have this, our main character is this woman named Ada. I think it's Ada. Yes, Ada. She discovers that she is the next jug face. The person who made the jug, once they make it, it's put in the kiln, they go away for a while, and she found the jug before the creator could. And she doesn't want to die, so she hides the jug. She finds out that she's pregnant, and in her mind, she doesn't want to sacrifice herself because she wants to save her child. There's more to it than that, but I'm not going to go into the details of that, the juicy details. But anyway, So she's essentially pregnant, and she does not want to be sacrificed to the pit, so she hides the jug. And as you would expect, this starts not going well for the cult. People start randomly dying off, killed by an entity that we can't see. These scenes, like when the entity kills someone, it's kind of like Evil Dead. We see the point of view of the whatever it is, but we never actually see it. And that works pretty good, to an extent. What makes this movie interesting is just seeing the goings-on of this cult. It's not like Wicker Man, where we have Sergeant Howie, who's an outsider to this thing, and everything he sees is strange to him, and that's how we see this cult. We're seeing this cult from within. We're seeing it from people who all of this is normal for them. So yeah, the fact that people are sacrificed to this pit, it like I said, it's very normal, and they're a relatively primitive people. Think sort of backwoods hillbillies with a hint of Amish to them, and they're just really fucked up. But yes, okay, so the movie follows this woman who does not want to be sacrificed to the pit, hides her jug, and then tries to figure out how to get out of this once things start going wrong. She wants to figure out how to get out of this without having to be sacrificed. There are a couple scenes where she tries to escape. There are scenes of torture. There are scenes where other people are sacrificed and then things still go wrong. All in all, it's an interesting movie. I will say it's more interesting than it is suspenseful. My main problem with this movie is the ending. The movie's good. The movie is good, and the ending isn't bad. It's not a bad ending, but it is a little disappointing. It doesn't go out with a bang. It goes out with a in a way, for me at least. That's the main issue. The entire movie feels like it's building up to something. You know, you feel like, okay, like, it's pretty predictable where the movie is going to go and where it's going to be at the third act, but once we get to that moment in the third act, you think something's gonna happen. It's been building to something. It's building to something, so something has to happen. And then nothing really happens. The way the movie ends is, okay, yeah, that's a predictable way for the movie to end, but it's not a satisfying way for the movie to end because the movie felt like it was building up to something, but then it built up to nothing. So the ending kind of peters out, and it doesn't leave you angry. It does leave you disappointed. It pretty much just leaves you saying, that's it? It feels lazy. Like, the fact that this is all they did feels kind of lazy to me, and that might be spoiling the movie a little bit, and I do apologize for that. But all in all, this is definitely worth a rental. Like, rent it online, watch it on a streaming service. It's worth one watch. And this is one of those movies where I can see people liking it more than I do, because I do like it. There just are a few problems that I think hold it back from me loving it. I don't think this is a movie worth owning, but I do think it's a movie worth watching. So I'd say give it a watch just one time, because it's good. It's a solid movie if you're home at night and you just want to watch something different. I think Jugface is a good way to go. Now, for the next movie, this is a movie that I've been curious about seeing for a long time, and I'm on a quest to see all of the Video Nasties. I've seen a lot of the Video Nasties, like a good portion of the Video Nasties, but I have not seen all of the Video Nasties. And I would like to... I came to the conclusion that I want to eventually do a video where I rank the Video Nasties. Now, I am not the first person to do that. There are a lot of people out there who have ranked the Video Nasties. One of my favorite YouTubers, someone who I really respect, Horrible Reviews, he did a whole series on the Video Nasties where he reviewed all the Video Nasties and then ranked the Video Nasties. Highly recommend checking that out. It is very well done. But, you know, I've always been curious about the Video Nasties, and I would like to do a ranking video of the Video Nasties, but I realize that I'm pretty far behind in terms of Video Nasties. Like I said, I've seen quite a few of them, but I realized there were a lot that I had not seen. There are 72 Video Nasties, and I've seen about 47 of them as of now. And I'm going to continue on this road, but I want to, you know, spread it out, of course. So it's going to be a while before I get to that ranking video. because I want to spread these out, because there are some damn good movies on the Video Nasties list, and there are some bad ones. And I'm in the brink of the Nazi exploitation movies now, and I can only take so many Nazi war atrocities, so I got to spread that out. But anyway, so on this quest to see all the Video Nasties, I checked out Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Now, I was a little hesitant on this movie, not because I thought it was going to be bad, but I just thought it was going to be kind of meh, and that's why I held off on it for a while. But after watching it, it's a really good movie. Seriously, it is a very good movie. So this movie opens up with this baby being dropped off with his aunt, and his parents are going away for the weekend. But it turns out that somebody tampered with their brakes, and the parents get into a car accident and die. Now, there is no mystery here. It's made very clear that the aunt is the one who tampered with the brakes. We find out that the aunt is obsessed with this child, and we flash forward, and the kid is now a teenager going to high school, and this aunt has this domineering relationship with him, this strange incestuous obsession with him. The incestuousness is hinted at, but you can tell it's there, and it becomes more obvious as the movie goes on. So you have this aunt who has this obsession in wanting to keep her nephew around, and having this weird, like I said, somewhat incestuous obsession with her nephew, and she doesn't want anything to come between her and him. She doesn't want him to leave. Like, he has opportunities to get a scholarship, and she doesn't want him to. In a way, it's a much less graphic, much less disturbing version of The Girl Next Door. You know, a movie where you have one person who has complete control over one person's life. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is disturbing to a level, more psychologically disturbing. It's nowhere near as disturbing as The Girl Next Door, but it does have a disturbing nature to it, and it's a very suspenseful, very well done psychological horror movie. There is a body count in this movie, but it comes closer to the end. We do have people killed here and there throughout, but it mostly happens towards the end of the movie, so I would not call this a slasher movie. I would definitely call this more of a psychological horror movie. But it is creepy. I mean, especially seeing this aunt so obsessed with her nephew. You want him to get away from her. Like, you want him to get away from her because she's so manipulative, and how she manipulates everything. You hate her for all the right reasons. The aunt in this movie is a fantastic horror movie villain. You hate her guts, but again, for all the right reasons. This is someone who's on the same level as Annie Wilkes from Misery. Not saying that Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is as good as Misery, but they're on the same level, and they have the same... They have a lot of similarities to them in terms of someone obsessed with another person and manipulating it so that person can never leave. And it just makes you hate this person, and it grows the suspense because you want this guy to get away from her. And it's like the way everything's manipulated, like this is a slight spoiler, but it shows how weird things are. Like in the first act of the movie, the aunt invites a guy over to fix something and then starts coming on to the guy. And the guy wants to get away and doesn't want to do it, but then starts falling for it. And then she starts acting like she was being raped, and the guy ends up getting killed. The nephew comes home to see this, witnesses the aunt killing this guy, but it looks like he is assaulting her. And then when the cops are called, one of the cops believes that the nephew did it, not the aunt, and the aunt is trying to protect the nephew. And the tension just grows from there, and there's certain secrets learned as the movie goes along. It's, like I said, it's a very effective psychological thriller, and it does go into slasher territory in the third act, and it does this very well in the best way. So if you're looking for just a good, solid psychological horror movie with a little more blood as we go along and some themes of incest, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is a really good movie, and it bugs me that I've taken so long to see it, because it is a fantastic movie, and one of those movies that didn't need to be on the Video Nasties list. I mean, yeah, it does have violence, it does have some sexual themes, but a lot of movies do, and a lot of horror movies do, so there was no reason for it to be on the Video Nasties list. But it is a damn good movie, well worth checking out. Next up, we have this fantastic serial killer movie, Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. This is another movie that I had heard about for a while, but I never got around to watching it. And I finally decided to give it a chance, because I love serial killer movies. I love serial killer movies because they're the movies that get to me the most. Like, you know, serial killer movies and movies that involve water. Drowning terrifies me, and serial killers terrify me. I always have found serial killers to be fascinating and terrifying because they blend in with society. You never know who is who, and like I've said many times, the scariest idea to me is that we don't know what people are like behind closed doors. So anytime I find a good serial killer movie, it makes me happy. And I like the serial killer movies that follow the serial killer because, for me, those are even more terrifying because it's forcing you to identify with the killer, and that's just so much more terrifying to me. Now, I was going to watch this movie a few months back, but I did not because I had watched The House That Jack Built before this one. I was going to do a double feature of The House That Jack Built and Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. Now, I know there's a lot of people who like The House That Jack Built. I did not like The House That Jack Built. I thought the pacing was not good. I thought there were some good ideas there that they did not take full advantage of. I was highly disappointed by The House That Jack Built. If you like it, that's great. I'm happy you can continue to enjoy it. It's not for me. You can continue watching and enjoying it. I'm not going to. And so, The House That Jack Built was 2.5 hours long, and it felt like it was 5 hours long. For me. And I'm fine with slow horror movies. I have no problem with slow horror movies. I just think the pacing and the way they did The House That Jack Built didn't work. I thought the movie was 2.5 hours long, and after I watched it, I went through it in my head, and I found a bunch of stuff that you could cut out that would have taken at least an hour off the movie. No joke. Because I felt that the movie had way too much padding. So, after dealing with that, I kind of went away from watching Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. But after a while, I thought, screw it, let me give it a shot here. I'm taking care of a dog, let me watch something. And it was great. It is a great fucking movie. Seriously. This is a period piece. We have this guy named Jean-Baptiste. This is a French movie. It takes place in, I think, 17th century France. Might be wrong there, but it takes place back in the day of France. And Jean-Baptiste was born unwanted. Like, his mother had given birth to so many stillborns. When she gave birth to him, she thought he was a stillborn, so she was going to leave him for dead. Turns out he was alive. People thought that his mother was trying to kill him, so they executed her. He ends up in an orphanage, and he has a very rough life, but it turns out that Jean-Baptiste has this unique sense of smell. He has, like, the greatest sense of smell in the world. He can smell everything. He can get the sense of literally everything. Like, he could smell this glass of water, and the glass would have a scent to him. And he becomes so fascinated with smells. He learned so much about smells before he learned how to talk. And as he gets older, he wants to get involved in perfume because he's fascinated by smells, and he wants to make these great perfumes. But one night, he comes across this woman and notices that she smells really good. Now, mind you, this is like 17th, 16th century France, where everything was covered in filth. Like, he sniffs her and likes her smell, and ends up accidentally killing her, but liking that smell, and then realizing that her smell goes away afterwards. So he goes on this quest because he wants to make this ultimate perfume that smells like people. He wants to be able to preserve the smell of a person. And he learns everything about perfume, and he basically finds a way to murder people and preserve their smell. And it's a fucked up idea, I know, but this is a great serial killer movie. Now, this is about as long as The House That Jack Built, and whereas The House That Jack Built, I thought the pacing was off and they didn't film it in an interesting way, this movie is 2.5 hours long as well, and it went by so much faster. I didn't really look at the clock, and then when we got to the third act, I said, holy shit, we're in the third act. If you're looking for a graphic serial killer movie, like something along the lines of Maniac or Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, you're not going to get that. He doesn't murder people in overly violent ways, but he does murder people. What makes it scary is how he goes about collecting their scent, how he kind of renders them to get their scent. It's disturbing and it's pretty fucked up. It takes a while to get to the killing. We're following his journey as he's learning about smells, learning to make perfume, learning that he wants to preserve the smell of a person. So it does fit into a descent into madness movie until it goes into a full-blown serial killer movie. But the thing that makes it great is the setting is great. Like I said, it's a period piece taking place in like 17th century France. And they capture this well. A lot of times when people film something from like the olden times, like 17th century France, they make everything look elegant and pretty. This movie makes everything look dirty, because it was filthy back then, and this movie captures that filth. And Jean-Baptiste is an interesting character because we know he's a disturbed individual, and we want him to get caught, but because we're following him, the movie kind of tricks us into being on his side a little bit, just a smidge, and then we remember, no wait, we can't be on this guy's side because he is a monster. He is a monster. He's going around killing people. And like I said, the disturbing parts aren't the deaths, because a lot of the kills happen off screen or they're more suggested, but it's how he handles the bodies afterwards. There's a lot of nudity in this film. A lot of nudity in this film, especially when we get to the third act. But and the tension comes from, he becomes this legend, and kind of like Jack the Ripper, where everyone's living in fear of him, but they don't know who he is. They just find these random women dead, and no one knows why he's killing them. No one knows why he wants these women. Like I said, the movie, in a way, it partially tricks us into being on his side. Like when he discovers how to make the perfume, you're like, oh, good for him. Wait, that's fucked up. And I like movies. I like when movies trick you like that. The acting is fantastic. The setting is fantastic. This movie had like a $60,000 budget, and it shows. I admit, I do respect The House That Jack Built because it had a much smaller budget. I just don't think it did it too well. But, I do still have respect for The House That Jack Built, for the story it was trying to tell. But again, back to Perfume. The movie does a good job at having you be fascinated with the making of perfume. Like, when it gets involved in making perfume, I found myself intrigued. Especially with Jean-Baptiste, because he was able to do it. He's able to mix these things so naturally, because he has such a good sense of smell. He doesn't need to measure anything. He doesn't need to do what, he just mixes things together, and he knows the exact amount of everything. And I have never been fascinated by perfume before, but seeing this and seeing the hard work that goes into making perfume, especially back then, it was very interesting to watch. I don't know how true it is to what actually happens or how it was done back then, but it is still interesting. And the main thing I respect about this movie is when it gets to the final act, I did not see that coming. The way it goes, I'm not going to spoil it here, but the way it goes, I could never have guessed that's the way it was going to go. And I'm going to say this right now. There are a lot of horror movies out there that are predictable. There are a lot of horror movies where you can guess where it's going to go. But Perfume, you cannot and will not, if you haven't seen it, you cannot and will not be able to say where this movie goes. And if you lie, if you say, oh, I knew this movie was going to go there, you are a fucking liar. I will tell you that straight to your face. If you say that you knew where this movie was going to go, you are a fucking liar. But the ending was so different and went in a way that I would not expect a movie like this to go, and it just made me love the movie even more. Highly, highly, highly recommend Perfume if you like period pieces, and if you're okay with a serial killer movie that's not as graphic. I do highly recommend this movie, but if you don't like period pieces, if you want a little more blood in your serial killer movie, you might be disappointed with this one. Like I said, it's not graphic in a violent way, but it does get graphic in other ways. But again, highly recommend Perfume. Perfume Story of a Murder. So good. I'd say, out of all the movies that I'm about to recommend, that one, I would say, watch now, because I don't know how many people have seen it. It wasn't my absolute favorite of these four, but it's the one I would recommend the most, just because it was so well done, it was so intriguing, and because I did not know where it was going to go. But of course, okay, for the last movie, I like to save my favorite movie for what I've seen here for the last one. And this is one that I have kicked myself for not watching. I wanted to see it for a while, but I always put it off, and after finally watching it, I am very mad at myself for not seeing this sooner. And this is one that I'm sure plenty of people have seen, but I wanted to recommend it just because I had so much fun with that one, and that is Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. This movie is right up my alley. It's campy, it's gory, it's bloody, it's sleazy, it's a lot of fun. I can't believe I put off watching this for so long. Now, on the off chance that some of you have not seen this movie, if you have not, I highly recommend it. Obviously, it's on this list. Okay, for the few of you who don't know, Tales from the Crypt, it was a TV show that premiered on HBO back in the day. It was a horror anthology series. It leaned a little more towards comedic and horror. It made fun horror shorts. They were gory, they were bloody, they were tit-filled, everything that a horror fan would want. And the Tales from the Crypt people decided to make some movies, and one of those movies was Demon Knight. Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. This one has a really good idea. It opens with this guy driving high speed down the road, and then we find out that somebody's after him, this guy in a cowboy hat. His car stalls. He jumps out of the car, the other car crashes into him, explodes in this huge fireball. Later on, we find out that the cowboy guy is still alive. So our main character, Breaker, played by William Sadler, he goes to this hotel that used to be a church, but now it's a hotel. And we meet the colorful characters inside. And then the cowboy guy meets up with the sheriff and the deputy, and they go to this hotel in order to arrest him. Now, Breaker has this key with him. It's a key with a clear vial in it filled with blood. And the cowboy guy, who we soon find out is the Collector, played by Billy Zane. We're going to get into that in a minute. The Collector wants the key. And, of course, Breaker does not want him to get the key. One thing leads to another, and all hell breaks loose. Literally. We find out that the Collector is a demon, and he wants this key. And we find out, and this is a slight spoiler, but I think it's very interesting, the key has in it the blood from Jesus. It has Jesus' blood that was collected from him during the crucifixion, and it's been passed on from generation to generation by people who are protecting this key because demons want the key. And, of course, if demons get the key, very bad things will happen. So the blood is able to repel demons, so it's able to create these barriers, and then you have these, Billy Zane is able to make these demons rise up. Some of them are fallen angels, some of them are just corpses possessed by demons, so on and so forth, and they're trying to get into the house so they can get this key. Very interesting premise, very fun premise. It's a very gory movie. It's just a lot of fun, and most of that, anybody who talks about this movie, they're going to say the best thing about this is Billy Zane as the Collector.
You fucking ho dunk, po dunk, well then there, motherfuckers!
He is having a blast in this movie. I mean, this character is so much fun. It's a great villain, charismatic villain. Again, he's just having so much fun with the role, but he's giving a good performance. It's not like he's having fun because he doesn't care. He's having fun because he does care, and that makes the performance so much better, thus making it more fun, thus making us more engaged, and it works all out in itself there. But this movie is filled with fun characters, it's filled with so much blood. There is a lot of gore, a decent amount of gore in this movie, and it's very well done. The practical effects are pretty damn good. I really like the demons in this one. When they rise up, they look like emaciated corpses, but they have those demon-esque qualities to them. Billy Zane is able to, show people these illusions to try to get them on his side. As much fun as this movie is, everybody is taking the threat seriously. As much fun as Billy Zane as the Collector is having, like this whole thing, like the threat is a serious threat, and the movie is able to do that. It is more fun than it is scary, but it's able to keep that tension and that suspense in play because everybody is treating this like a genuine threat. And I'm just gonna say this, watching Billy Zane in this movie, one, I have to say, why did no one approach him to be the Joker? I think he would make a legitimately good Joker because, again, he's having a good time while doing these horrible things. He's cracking jokes and stuff like that. I think he would make a good Joker. And if they ever do another Nightmare on Elm Street sequel or reboot and they cannot get Robert Englund to play Freddy Krueger, I think Billy Zane would make a great Freddy Krueger. I'm being 100% serious here. He has that gallows humor that both the Joker and Freddy Krueger have. I think he would be great in both roles. I don't think anybody would give him the job, but I think he would do a legitimately good job. Put him in the Freddy Krueger makeup, and he would make the character... He would give the character that humor that the character is supposed to have. Freddy has a gallows sense of humor. Billy Zane, as the Collector, has that gallows sense of humor. Maybe tone down the funniness a little, but I legitimately think he would do a good job, especially from watching this movie. And for the most part, I like all the characters. We only really have one asshole character in this movie, but everybody else is a legitimately fun character, and I don't want to see them die. There's only one person that I really wanted to see die, and he gets a very satisfying death. And I've heard people, when they talk about this movie, they say there's not enough Billy Zane. It's like, I want more Billy Zane in this movie, which tells me they used Billy Zane the right amount. Like, if you want more Billy Zane, that's a good thing. That means they gave you the right amount of Billy Zane so that you want more Billy Zane. A little Billy Zane goes a long way in this movie, and I think they used him the right amount because people are saying they wanted more. But overall, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have seen Demon Knight, but if you have not seen Demon Knight, it was so good. And after I watched it, I literally looked at it, it was just like, where have you been all my life? All right, I know where you've been all my life, I've just been ignoring you. Please forgive me for doing that. Please, come here, please forgive me. So that's all I got for this episode. Those are the 4 movies of what I have seen the past couple months that I would recommend. Again, I'd like to do this every other month. Let me know if you'd like me to do another one of these episodes. It's a good time, and I like recommending movies to people, so... But yeah, let me know if you liked this video. Let me know if you have seen any of these movies that I recommended. Let me know if I made you want to check some of them out, and... down below, leave some movies that you would recommend to people. Some horror movies that you've seen recently that you would recommend to people. Preferably ones that are not in theaters. If you've come across one that has not gotten a wide theatrical release, recommend that, because if it's a good one, then more people should watch it because it's not getting the same attention as theatrical released horror movies. Or if you've recently watched a hidden gem from back in the day, recommend that one too. So yeah, that's what we got going here. So yes, on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all again for the continued support of this channel. Thank you all so much. But until next time, I hope you're having a good day, night, week, whatever. And this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the grindhouse will never die.